Thank you everyone for attending the Municipal Heritage Committee meeting. First item is the land acknowledgement statement for the town of Smith Falls. On May 24th, 2023, we acknowledge that the sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. Next item of business is the approval of the agenda. Before we do that, does anyone want to add anything to the agenda? Okay, if not, would someone move that we adopt the agenda then, please? Jenny, and a seconder? Class, thank you. All in favor? Great. Adoption of the minutes. First set of minutes from the meeting of November 16th, which some of us were involved in anyway. So would someone move that we adopt those minutes? Jenny moves and Lorraine seconds. All in favor of adopting the minutes of November 16th? Okay, thank you. And then the minutes from our last meeting, April 26th. Lorraine, are you moving that we accept them? And a seconder, please. Mary Ann, thank you. I did notice one little problem in there, Mary, where you didn't put in the name of the vice chair.
I apologize. Yes, I will fix that. I also noticed that I inadvertently added a D to the end of Lorraine's name on, I think it was page 2 or 3. So I'll tend to that as well.
Okay, thanks. So all in favor of adopting the minutes of April 26th as amended? Okay, thank you. Disclosure of monetary interest, anyone? Okay, so we'll go ahead. First priority issue is the former water treatment plant. Stephanie, I haven't met you before. Thank you very much for attending our meeting.
You're welcome. Hi.
Are you going to address us?
I certainly can. Carl, you may wish to assist as well, but I can certainly answer any questions you have and give you a general update on what I know is happening, if that's what you'd like.
Carl?
Certainly, and thank you, Madam Chair, and just good evening, everyone. I think for committees, for information, I'd like to introduce, and I should have done that a moment ago, Stephanie Clark. She's our new Director of Community Services, who among the various aspects of her portfolio is responsible for facilities management, including the water treatment plant. So certainly Stephanie's been extremely busy over the last couple of weeks since the catastrophic fire, and working closely with a consultant engineer to investigate areas for the areas where we can and options we might have for saving some or all of the structure. So planning staff have been working with her with respect to the heritage designation and identifying some of the key features. But given the events certainly of the last couple of weeks, I think I'm grateful that Stephanie has agreed to our offer to address the Municipal Heritage Committee, speak about the efforts her department is undertaking moving forward, and answer any questions that MHC members might have about the facility and sort of what the options and next steps might be moving forward, understanding that this is a rapidly moving situation, and we certainly don't have all the answers right now, but we're we're working on them. So thank you for joining us, Stephanie.
Thanks, Carl. Yeah, so I can give, oh, sorry, there's a question, yes.
Yeah, sorry, Stephanie, to interrupt, but just
Okay.
for clarification, a lot of rumors. Who owns the building now?
The town.
The town still owns it. Okay,
Yeah,
you can imagine,
town.
Stephanie, there's been a lot of rumors around, so who owns it?
Yeah, no, we are, fee simple title is us. So I can give a brief update of sort of what's happened. I'm sure you're all aware, as I know that Carl and Marion have been communicating, I think, fairly thoroughly with you guys, and obviously Councilor McGuire is part of this committee as well. So I won't belabor the backstory to it, but obviously there was a catastrophic fire. We are taking direction from council as to how we want to engage the next steps. We did receive an engineer's report that recommended immediate deconstruction / demolition for public safety. And then we decided to take sort of a sober second thought because we weren't convinced, not that the engineer didn't do an excellent job, but certainly wasn't looking from a heritage perspective in terms of salvage. There were no options on the table, so we were looking for options and what that could potentially look like. We did have an engineer attend yesterday. This individual is out of Simcoe and is working with Edifice, who is an organization that's deeply embedded in stone masonry and historical buildings. I'm sure you're well aware. And so a significant number of samples were taken from the site. There is obviously, no surprise, significant damage to the building. Some of it was pre-existing, some of it is just normal wear and tear on a several hundred-year-old building. And some of it is obviously fire related. So we anticipate that there will be some results that are coming. The general understanding that this engineer gave was, yes, demolition is an option, but it is only one of the options. There are some other avenues that we may be able to take. We have commissioned, in a sense, an ongoing conversation with this engineer and his company to give us a number of options that we can then present to council in the near future, so that we can have a really thorough understanding of what the implications are if we choose to move forward in terms of cost, et cetera, with salvage of the building. What are the options around maybe dismantling it, if that's a potential, and how can we salvage certain parts of the structure, whatever that looks like. So a lot of it will hinge upon the integrity of the stone and of the masonry, which is the testing that's occurring right now. And then he will be undertaking some of his engineering wizardry and will give us a report as soon as possible. So it is the intention of this department and of the town to explore all the options. I think if we had wanted to move forward with demolition, we would have done so right away. That's not the intention. We do want to try to salvage as much as possible and in a meaningful way for the community. So I know that doesn't really answer a lot of questions, but we have more questions out in the world that we're waiting for answers. But I'll keep you guys apprised as and when we get them.
Well, thank you very much for that, Stephanie. And that is what we were asking for options. So do any of the committee members have questions regarding Stephanie's report? Class?
Thanks, Chair. Stephanie, you mentioned earlier in your first announcement there, from a safety perspective and so forth, would it not be possible that a very secure hoarding could be put around the building to keep anybody out? I mean, there were a lot of people in there to start with, but would a hoarding around that building be a possibility until we really decide what to do with it?
Yeah, I would defer to what the engineer's report would suggest. At this point, there is police presence keeping folks out, as it is an active scene. So we're not concerned about people going in and out at this point. But we will, in terms of the broader perspective, take steps to make sure that it is secure. And I think the insurance company will be involved as well. In terms of the longer term perspective, that will probably take some construction and engineering to either shore up the building itself, physically shore it up, or to keep people out. I mean, we are exploring all those options, certainly.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Comments? class?
Me again. I'm sorry, Chair. Thank you. Stephanie, is there anyone who has showed interest in the building that the town owns to do something with it?
How do you mean?
Well, is there anyone, contractors, developers interested in the building the way it stands right now?
I would defer to Mary or to Carl, maybe. That's not my wheelhouse, so I wouldn't want to misspeak on that, but I'm not sure if maybe Carl or Mary has any. Not to throw you guys, throw it to you, but.
Yes, I understand, through you, Madam Chair, I understand that the town has been engaged in negotiations for the potential sale and conveyance of the property. I haven't been part of those immediate discussions and don't know exactly how the fire affects those conversations, but I understand that there have been negotiations underway for some time. I'm not sure what the concept plan is. Certainly there's a lot of work that would need to be done on the planning end, and as well as on the as well as investigating the heritage component of any redevelopment of the property.
Thanks, Carl.
Any other questions? Chris?
Thanks, Dorothy, and thanks a lot, Stephanie, for joining us tonight. I don't have a question. I just want to say how happy I am that the town was able to follow through on the committee's recommendation, and that Dr. Christopher Cooper, who's come to our heritage symposiums to present before, has taken an interest in the project along with one of his students, and I think he's the director of the engineering firm he's at, Brian Elliott, who's got a really great experience with heritage fire stations and really some interesting buildings. If you check out his website that he's designed that are sympathetic to surroundings around, and really great understanding of heritage architecture and a licensed structural engineer. So it's been great to see the police service and the fire service. I know yesterday they were both assisting in making sure they could get the samples they needed so that they can do the tests they need to do to determine the extent of the heat damage. But overall, a really hopeful report to council last night, and I encourage anyone to watch it. I can share the link with the video queued to when he talks, but really great information coming to council last night. Even though he was just driving back from Smith Falls, so he was just pulled over on the side of the road in his car on the phone. But anyway, so yeah, it's been, I know, stressful for everybody, but it looks like we're in a good place right now. So very appreciative.
Thank you, Chris. And if you could send us that link, that would be great. That would be helpful if we could see the report ourselves. And Stephanie, you will be keeping us informed and updated, I suppose, as things unfold?
Yeah, likely through Carl and Mary, but you know, if you would like me to come back, I certainly am open to doing so.
Okay, thank you very much.
No worries.
So we can move on, I think, with the next item, unless anyone else has a final thought. Carl, do you? No.
No, I was just thanking Stephanie for.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, our next item of business is the work plan that we discussed last time we met. And we now have a draft version of it in chart form, which should certainly be helpful as we do our work this year. Does anybody want to comment on that? Or Mary, were you wanting to say anything about it?
So yes, for those returning members, I actually just wanted to say that I had a little bit of a different intention with the work plan this year. Instead of it being prepared and then the committee essentially not seeing it again, what the intention is that I will update this each and every month and circulate it with the agenda package as an email attachment though. So this won't be a public facing document, but it'll just keep all committee members updated and on track in terms of where each of these work planning items are and whose court it's currently in.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's helpful. That should keep us focused. Any comments about that? Chris? No?
Sorry, I was just trying to pull up the website. It's not labeling. Anyway, last night the strategic plan came to council and the Heritage Conservation District's still on it. But I just wanted an update of when it was, right now it's for Q1 2024. So I just wanted to bring that to the committee's attention and just as it relates to the work plan.
Well, okay, I'm not sure what that means, what that implies, but we probably will discuss that further when we get to the project updates. So thanks for that, Chris. So we are on project updates now, and I think if we could have the symposium working group report first, then I think the Heritage Register review will lead into whatever we say about the HCD. So who's going to report on the symposium working group? Lorraine, okay, thank you.
Welcome, everybody. And we have a committee formed, the four of us, but we've only so far talked by texting back and forth. And we're hoping this week, some things in my life came up this past week and I had to cancel a meeting that we were going to have in person, but hopefully this week. However, I did talk to the Station Theatre this week, and we have tentatively confirmed October. Pardon? Pardon?
Sorry, forgot to mute.
Can I continue?
Yes, go ahead, Lorraine.
The week of October 5th, which Thursday is October 5th. And when I look back, I believe we've had 12 successful symposiums. The Heritage Committee has led those, and but they've always been either in late September or early October. So I thought perhaps that might be worth checking with the theater. And apparently that date is fine. In fact, that whole week is fine. And they're prepared to support us in the way they have in the past. So all of our speakers would have the right equipment, and that we'd have a sound person supplied by them. And it would be the person they usually use for their own drama events. And we're going to meet, I hope, this week. And I was going to talk to the four of us. We're going to talk tonight, but maybe at the end of this meeting, we could just stay on and talk to one another, if that's okay with Mary. And that's the only update I have at this point.
That's the week leading up to Thanksgiving weekend, is it, Lorraine?
Oh, I don't know.
I think so. I would like to attend, so I'm leaving on October 12th for 3 weeks, so that would be a good week from my perspective.
Well, okay. Well, I'll write that down.
No,
I don't
the week,
think it really matters.
you said the week of October 5th, so that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So the Heritage Register Review Working Group, we actually met in person in that spectacular dining car over at the Railway Museum. What a beautiful atmosphere that was in there. So there were, Tony and Marianne and I met, and what we did was we went over the current list of heritage properties and the map that accompanied it that Mary sent us earlier this year. And we identified all but 7 of the 47 properties on that list are either already designated or else they fall within what we would consider to be the downtown Heritage Conservation District area. But these 7 properties are private residences, which, as we have seen, may present some hurdles if the owners are not in favor of heritage designation. All the properties of interest on the list that have not been designated, basic research has already been done for all of them, but attempting to research and designate all those properties of interest within what would be the HCD, we felt it's beyond the capabilities of our committee, given the time constraints with the the clock ticking on properties of interest staying on the list. And we assume that heritage consultants hired to do the area study would be conducting that research anyway and identifying the key heritage attributes of these properties in the downtown. So we really did discuss the fact that we thought that accomplishing the HCD is the best way forward. These and the heritage buildings in the downtown are somewhat vulnerable, more so we thought than the private residents would be. So basically, we couldn't move ahead with a decision about what we should be doing because we didn't know the timeline for the area study. So, Chris, when you mentioned that Q1 of next year, does that mean that's when people will start thinking about getting the area study started?
I'm not sure. That's what I was hoping to just give, because our 2023 work plan, just to make sure our timelines are synced, but then get into a better discussion when we, Carl gives an update on the HCD on item.
Okay.
Because yeah, I'm not sure if that means, yeah, I'm not sure what our timing looks like. If it means there won't be any progress till Q1 2024, or if it means that we'll see a deliverable. Yeah.
Well, maybe when we get to that, Carl would be able to fill us in. So one of the things we could be doing as a committee is starting an inventory of the buildings that fall within what we think would be the HCD area. And we could, list those which would contribute to the district heritage-wise, and those which wouldn't contribute because they're infill or something like that. So that would be something that we could get started on rather than spending our time on research that's going to be repeated by a qualified heritage consultant. The other thing we talked about was possible additions to the properties of interest list. There are some, one of them in particular, the funeral home that we refer to as the Last Chance Hotel. We have not included that as a property of interest to date, but we could and should, along with the other funeral home, Blair's, I believe it is, and the advanced alarm building. And Tony also suggested we reconsider the ward burial ground. So that was our meeting. We didn't schedule another meeting because we need more information about how we might proceed. So now we're on to if there is any update on the Heritage Conservation District. Carl, are you? Yeah.
Thanks, Dorothy. As noted, the draft strategic plan was reviewed and considered by council. It wasn't approved by council just yet. There's still a few tweaks that staff have been asked to undertake. So we're working on that. We expect it would be on track for June, hopefully. So the timelines that are indicated in the draft strategic plan are targets for completion, and of course those are targets. Those are what we hope for. But yes, it's anticipated as a target for completion, and obviously they're subject to change pending council's final approval. But assuming that it makes it to the finish line as we expect, and assuming that the timing for the first step, which is the area study, remains unchanged, that gives us an aggressive timeline. Staff will prepare and present a scope of the project and implementation. What I'm hearing from this group is, I think, obviously the synergy between that work and the heritage review. So I think what I would suggest and what I would recommend before the June meeting is that staff meet with Marianne, Dorothy, and Tony to sort of pool our resources, and certainly I'd like to learn more about, I guess, what you found as well. And I think that would help us plan the next steps that we can present to the Municipal Heritage Committee at the June update, which would be a more detailed scope and work plan for what we expect this area study to look like. And just for the committees, just to remind the committee as well, the area study is I guess that first deliverable that outlines a number of questions that need to be answered, including the actual boundaries. So council, from that point, council would have to endorse and direct the implementation of the preparation of the actual plan that includes the regulatory documents.
Mhm.
But I think from what I'm hearing here, I think the best first step would be to convene a meeting with the review working with the Heritage Register review working group in the next couple of weeks, and sort of map out a step forwards. If that's okay with the committee, I'd certainly appreciate that direction.
Mhm. That's certainly fine with me. Mary Ann, are you okay? And I'm sure Tony will be fine with it too. So Carl, if you would like to fire out some, a couple of possible meeting times, we can certainly get together. I think that's a great idea. Chris?
Thanks, Dorothy, and thanks, Carol. It's great to see this on the agenda now. So when we see for 2024 Q1, are we expecting that area study to be finished and that part checked off by then, and then moving on to the next step, or is that starting then, like the approval of the study to be completed?
So we do, through you, Madam Chair, we do have a budget. We do have an approved budget that outlines the Heritage Conservation District. So the expectation is that we would be beginning work on that in advance of 2024.
Awesome, excellent.
Thank you. That's great news. Any more questions on that subject, Lorraine?
Not a question, it's just an addition to what I'm hoping my colleagues that are on my committee for the symposium agree to, and we have chatted about, is having presentations on why it's such a positive experience to have your home designated, as well as some heritage districts that are, have completed it and people in the district see the benefit. Like, I think that might really feed what we're heading toward, I think. If we have speakers and people that could demonstrate that these are positive things for our community, would be really helpful.
When we attended the Heritage Conference in Brockville, I think most of us went to that session. It was called the 5 Things to Know Before Starting an Area Study. And I suppose we probably still have the names and possibly contact information of the people who presented that session. So maybe we could call on some of them.
Yeah, Mary Ann was part of that committee, I think, that created that, so I'm
Okay.
sure she'll have it.
I would love to see that. Thank you. That would be helpful.
Chris?
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, my computer's doing an update or something here, but yeah, no, I think that'd be great. And I know there's a lot of enthusiasm for members of council to attend something like that and get a real, get the information they need to make an informed decision when it comes to council later. And I'd love to see somebody, I know Jan Hawley isn't around anymore, but from that economic development and tourism perspective, to really show how these districts really add to the economy of the town. It's not just a cultural heritage thing. It's also a really good economic tool to have in the town. So,
And focusing on that in October is kind of perfect timing as well for bringing forward more positive information. So that's great. Any other comments or questions? Okay, our next item is roundtable. So Jenny, you're right after me on the screen. Do you have anything to bring forward?
I do not.
Mary?
Sorry, Dorothy. Yes, so there was a heritage pedestal item, but I'll just.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize. Let's do that next.
I just thought I'd update you then as part of the roundtable. So as everyone knows, the committee did discuss heritage pedestals. I asked for just a bit of time because I understood that Economic Development and Heritage House Museum had some interest in repairing the heritage pedestals. So the day following our meeting in April, so April 27th, I did engage those two departments. I'm in the middle of seeking a quote to replace the high priority ones. So there's two pedestals in town. One is faceless and the other one is at the corner. Sorry, that one's on Riverside Drive, I believe it is. And then there is another one that is severely dented. It's located at the corner of Market and William Street. So the holdup on the quotation to complete those two and get those two fixed this year is being held up because the sign company is looking for the backer plate, which is needed because it's dented and bent now. So they're having a hard time obtaining a quote for that so that it can be fixed. But once I have it, staff can consider where to put that under the budget so that we can have those fixed this year.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry for starting roundtable early, but we'll continue now. Lorraine, do you have anything?
Pardon?
Do you have anything
Are we
for
on roundtable?
Yes.
On roundtable?
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. There's been some very positive things happening that I was terrified of losing a very important building. And so I'm feeling more optimistic that maybe that will be saved. And it's been on our list since I've been a counselor and since I've been involved with Heritage because of its significance. And it would be a real shame if we don't get to keep that building. So, and I'm happy to be part of the symposium. And Marianne and I had a long chat about how excited we are about being on that committee. And so I hope this week we can get together and start, getting busy on it. Thanks. Nice to see everybody.
Thank you. Class, do you have anything for roundtable? You're on mute.
Sorry, Madam Chair. I'll get used to this one of these days. Looking forward to the symposium. I know Lorraine has tried to set something up and our lives are extremely busy, but no, and I do have some hopefully some ideas and some references that can help out with symposium. Thanks.
Marianne? No, Carl?
Nothing for me today. Thank you, Dorothy.
Okay. And Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Dorothy. I think two things on my mind. One is eventually with the water treatment plant, when the report comes, council's going to have to make a decision of, do we invest the insurance money in stabilizing or do we proceed with the demolition? And I think that as a committee, we need to be thinking of just ways to try to stir up support in the community. Right now, a really positive note from Ryan Elliott was that he was estimating very broad estimate that the two costs of demolition and stabilization would be roughly in the same ballpark. But I think still it's just if we're thinking of ideas for advocacy and ideas of showing that the community really is behind stabilizing these buildings and keeping them a part of our architectural fabric, with the political support, because ultimately one thing that stuck in my mind that he said to council was that these buildings are always savable. It comes down to a matter of a political decision and the amount of money it's going to take to save it. So just something I think if we can keep on our radar and if we can think of ideas of how to show that support, it'd be really good. The other thing is that the sign bylaw came through council last night, which the downtown recommendations that I know we've been really pushing for was positively received and no changes made there. So that was really good. And then some of the, there was one thing that I was confused on, like say like the LED flashing light strips are more of I guess a design thing. So just another reason with the Heritage Conservation District to kind of get the full package together of our downtown design and creating that architectural experience, I guess, as you're going through downtown. Last I saw that the Heritage House Museum's doing a fundraiser on Friday at the brewery at 7, doing a trivia night, tables at 6. I think it's $25 a table. And I don't know, did somebody on the committee give them questions, or Mary, was that you? Okay.
Lorraine and I worked, and Mary, I think that was a while ago, but we did work out the questions, yeah, some questions anyway.
It was. So just to, I guess, chime in here. So your questions were directly given to HHM last year when you submitted them to me. And my understanding, as Chris says, is that they're starting to host trivia nights. And the first one, Chris might be able to correct me, is at 4 Degrees this week.
Yeah, at 7. So I wasn't involved in the drafting of the questions, so I might try to find a table, but for those that did write the questions, maybe you can come for a beer, but they probably won't let you play.
And Katie helped us as well. I knew there was somebody, yeah.
Cool. All right, well, yeah, thanks everybody.
Okay, thank you. So our next meeting is on June 28th, 4:30. Unless anyone has any further comments, we can adjourn. If someone would move adjournment, please.